What?
Thanks a bunch. Wait for it.
Killing spree. Double kills. Rampage.
Ooh, I like the heels.
What do you mean this ain't Overwatch? Alright, so I'm actually reviewing Paladins. Paladins is a game created by Hi-Rez Studios, the company behind Smite and Tribes Ascend. Paladins is Hi-Rez's response to the new hero shooter genre coined by Blizzard's Overwatch. In case you've been hiding under a rock, a hero shooter is a style of game that combines team-based shooter gameplay with MOBA-style heroes and hero skills. As I mentioned, Overwatch is the most popular at the moment, but other games under the umbrella include Battleborn, which plays more like a first-person MOBA than an FPS, Paladins, Battlecry, Gigantic, and the upcoming Paragon. Many people consider Team Fortress as the father of the hero shooter genre, but I don't really consider it one. I personally consider it a class-based shooter, since the game mainly consists of classic FPS game modes, a small character roster, and the characters are just generic soldier classes with different abilities, as opposed to actual different characters with wholly unique abilities. Killzone 2 and 3 would fit under that class-based shooter description for its multiplayer. Paladins has been in closed alpha and beta for quite some time now, but just recently it was released as an open beta on Steam, under an early access title. So it is worth noting that the commentary I'm about to make on the game is referring to it in its beta state, so the game has potential to undergo many changes before its final release. Paladins has been getting recognition for being an Overwatch clone. But is it really? First, let's take a look at the heroes. For the most part, they are generic sci-fi fantasy characters, but there are a couple I really like, such as Light Pulsar Dragon, Toka, Groot, and Rocket Raccoon. Drogas is a dragon with 40k armor. He shoots foes with a rocket launcher. He's essentially this game's Pharah, complete with upward thrust and hellfire shot. He also has a secondary called Fire Spit, which essentially shoots out a wad of fire, which you can then fire a missile into, creating a massive explosion. Think similar to the shock rifle from Unreal Tournament. His ultimate is the Dragon Punch, which is a charge that insta-kills enemies. Makoa is the stereotypical tank. He's a giant turtle with a lot of health. He's this game's Roadhog, complete with a pudge hook. Grover is a walking, talking tree. His main shtick is throwing axes at people. He doesn't really have an Overwatch equivalent, and I quite like his design. The last of my favorite four is Pip. He's basically Ratchet meets Rocket Raccoon, and he's a support character. He was actually my favorite character to play as overall in my time playing Paladins. He has a few healing skills, a jump buff, a slow, and his ultimate turns people into chickens for a while, making it easy to take them out. Oh, and this game has its own edgy McReaper as well. Now let's get to the actual gameplay. Here's what is different from Overwatch. You start the game off on horses. This helps everyone get to where they want to be much quicker after spawning, which helps with the pace of the overall game. After you get off the horse, you can't get back on. Each match begins with a King of the Hill style point capture, after which the winning team has to escort a payload to its destination. You might be thinking, how does that differ from Overwatch? Well, in Overwatch, it's assigned before the match if you are attacking or defending, and Paladins is determined by the point capture part at the beginning of the match. Another thing separating Paladins from Overwatch is that there is a shop where you can buy cards with gold you accumulate over the course of a match. These cards give you minor buffs such as increasing movement speed or giving you a lifesteal, which can help turn the tide of a match or just help build your character into something that better suits you. Another card mechanic is a card deck that you can build for each character before a match. These cards give other characters specific buffs that apply to your character for a match. You have to play the game to earn cards through random drops or pay for them with a microtransaction system. Which brings up something I really dislike about the game as a whole. I hate the free-to-play system that this game has. I know it's become the standard, Smite does it, League of Losers does it, Heroes of the Storm does it, but the goddamn heroes are on a rotation, and I hate it. You only get a handful of free heroes to pick from upon first playing, and the rest need to be bought. It's why I think Dota 2 is far superior as a free-to-play game, because of its presentation, and it giving you all the playable characters and modes free from the get-go. That being said, there is a $20 version of Paladins that will give you access to all the heroes up front. So what does Paladins have in common with Overwatch? Pretty much everything else. Payload Escort plays the exact same way, the overtime mechanic is the exact same, the graphics are similar, the character designs are similar, skills are similar. I mean, Fernando's shield is the exact same as Reinhardt's. It's all very similar. I know Paladins was in production around the same time of Overwatch, and the alpha was available before Overwatch's official launch, but it's obvious Paladins was very inspired by Overwatch and knew that it was on to something big, and they wanted a piece of that something. But when it's all said and done, Overwatch is just a superior game. Now I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off by saying that. It's cool if you like Paladins, I don't really care if you think it's better. But the whole time I was playing it, I couldn't help but think I was playing Overwatch Lite. And yes, Paladins is still in early beta, but comparing where the game is at now, Overwatch is just more polished and more fun. If you have the money, buy Overwatch over Paladins. That being said, if you don't want to pay for Overwatch but want a similar experience, then by all means, go with Paladins. It's not a bad game, it's just inferior to the competition. Another reason to go with Paladins is that it's a much more casual experience. Now, I think Overwatch is a pretty casual game to begin with, but you still have some really skilled players playing it, and you have a community that is not afraid to call you out if you suck ass. I didn't experience that level of competitiveness with Paladins. In fact, I found the game rather easy. Maybe I just got lucky with my matches that I played. For example, the footage that you have been watching was from my 5th match, and look at my final score. 69-5 as a support character. A support. Those kind of numbers would never happen in Overwatch, and compare them to my enemy team, where the highest kill is 8. It's really easy to stomp on another team. Final verdict. Play it if you don't want to dish out the cash for Overwatch, but know that it is an inferior experience, at least as far as what is released so far with it being in beta. Oh ho, we have a 2-for-1. Next we're going to take a look at Toxikk. At its simplest, Toxikk is Unreal Tournament 2016. Toxikk was in beta for about a year and a half, and just a couple weeks ago was released as a finished game onto Steam. This was 5 days before the release of Paladins beta on Steam. Toxikk uses the Unreal Engine 3, so at ground level it basically is an Unreal Tournament clone. But I think the developer would take that with a term of endearment. Everything about this game screams Unreal Tournament. The gameplay, the art design, the guns, and even the maps take inspiration from Unreal Tournament. I mean, look, this map is an exact replica of UT's deck map. I'm not going to go into a full history of Unreal Tournament right now. I'm actually working on a classic shooter video series right now that I will go more into detail about it then. But for now, know that the first Unreal Tournament was released in 1999 and was a sequel to 1998's Unreal. Unreal Tournament became one of the most popular arena shooters of all time, and is considered to be Quake 3 Arena's strongest rival. There are 3 major differences between Toxikk and the current Unreal Tournament that is in development. 1. You can turn invisible for a short period of time. This allows you to set up position for attack or make escapes. Some people say they feel that the invisibility can be abused, but I don't really think the skill lasts long enough for players to really abuse it. They may get a couple cheap, quick kills off, but it's pretty easy to catch on to, and nothing is stopping you from doing the exact same thing, so the game is still really even. 2, there is no slide or wall jump mechanic, and 3, there are vehicles. These vehicles include a Jeep similar to Halo's Warthog, a speeder that can make long jumps, and an armored mech armed with a Gatling gun and Hellfire missiles. Other than that, Toxikk is pure arena shooter. You find health and armor pickups littered about. Sometimes you'll find quad damage and you'll have to pick up weapons as you move around the map to frag enemies with. It's fast-paced, forcing players to rely on quick reflexes, twitch movement, and their own skill. One thing I really like about Toxikk is the class system. This is something that puts Toxikk even above Doom as my favorite multiplayer shooter of the year so far. It does a really good job of balancing matches and putting you into matches with people close to your skill level. I sit at about a 6 out of 12, so I'm dead average in the middle of players. Sometimes I'll move up to an 8 and get stomped, and sometimes I'll move down to a 4 and then I'll be stomping. But most of the time I play with other 5, 6, and 7, so the matches are usually pretty close. Each match, you are ranked 1 to 12 on how well you did that match. The rank is then applied to an overall rank, 1 through 12, and this is your skill class, which determines what skill level of players you'll be playing against. It's a nice system that encourages competitiveness and allows you to really see how you're improving and how you need to improve, and I like it a lot. The free-to-play model is also really good as well. Free players will have access to about 90% of the game. They get to play every game mode and can play about half of the maps. The only thing the paid version of the game gives you is the ability to customize your character, purely cosmetic, the ability to vote in between rounds on what map or what game mode you want to play next, the ability to make your own lobbies instead of just using the quick match option, and the access to premium maps. The one thing about premium maps is some of them can get really big. The only problem is that there isn't a huge player base on Toxikk right now, and so these huge maps feel really empty sometimes. That being said, it's a really good free-to-play model, and it lets you get a feel for the game before you really dedicate to purchasing it yourself. Final verdict, short and sweet, I love Toxikk. It's a much more polished game than the current Unreal Tournament Alpha is, and it's more balanced and fast-paced than the Doom multiplayer. It's arena shooter at its best. As I said, the only downside is the community is small, so it needs players. So if you're into competitive shooters and this looks fun to you, I say give it a shot. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these 2 short little quick reviews. We are working on some other videos, including a follow-up to the Mega Man clones video I did a while back. You can find a link for that below. I found some more Mega Man-like games that I think you'd all be interested in learning about. I'm also working on a Doom Clone series where I'll be covering a plethora of classic shooters. Tomorrow is also October 1st, which means we will be delivering some horror reviews, so keep your peepers open for that. Thank you!